So let's hop into it. So I'm Tony Bricca. I'm a solutions engineer here at Builder. And for today's session, I'll be guiding you through. And this is a live interactive session. So I could mess up. We'll see what happens. But any questions that come up, feel free to drop them in the Q&A tab. Just note, pop them in the Q&A and not in the chat. It makes it easier for me and our team to get to them. And so for today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be understanding how to actually use your design system when you prototype. So we'll be talking through starter templates, how they work. I'll show you how to create a starter template, and then we'll look at some different examples of that as well. And then we'll have some time here at the end for Q&A. Cool. So today's session, as you've all seen, it's AI-powered prototypes that actually use your design system. So how do we actually accomplish that? That's where starter templates come in. And let's talk about what that actually is, because it's the foundation that makes all of this possible. So officially, in our documentation, our starter template is a collection of predefined project settings. So that includes things like your connected repository, so that'd be your application. So when you generate new projects, they'll automatically be linked to your GitHub or whatever your source repository is, as well as your development server port, your build scripts, and any other custom configuration specific to that project. But the key thing I really want to emphasize here today is that starter templates are what you make of them. They're not a one-size-fits-all setup. They're built for your brand, your design, your company, and your code. So if you've got a specific design principles, naming conventions, or other starting code that your team relies on, this is where you're going to bake all of that in. And to make that more concrete, that's things that you'll see here on the screen. So that's example code, design system examples, your index design system, rules. And I'm going to go through what each of these things mean today, so that way you can understand. And so what does today's reality look like? So let's say you're working for your company, you got a great idea. You want to throw together a landing page maybe for a conference. You want to see how different components look, build an internal app, whatever it might be. And with AI, now you can do this quickly. You can do it fast. So you throw this into your favorite vibe coding tool and you throw in that prompt. And whoa, you get a cool result. Look at this. It's working. Now you want to show it to your team. But come to realize it's not using any of your design system. The fidelity will vary. So now you're going to try to prompt it again. Maybe you'll throw in a little screenshot, but then you're going to get unexpected code complexities. This isn't the way it's supposed to look. A developer might take a look at it and be like, what? This is completely different from how we do code in our applications. So what might happen is you have to throw away and rebuild. Maybe you try again. You're really determined to make this idea work. But ultimately, what a cycle that most teams fall into is you get a great idea, quick prototype, but no path to production. The opportunity here with Builder is to start using your design and code system from day one. And that's where starter templates come in. They let you keep the creative momentum and end up with something ready to ship. So how do these differ? So with a traditional vibe coding setup, you start with whatever boilerplate the platform provides. So it has no awareness of your components, naming conventions, or design rules. And even when you bring in your own code base, it often conflicts with or overrides your structure instead of learning from it. So the difference when you're using a Fusion starter template from Builder is you're giving the LLM real context. So that can be, like I mentioned before, your target code base, any reference code bases, maybe you have design that lives elsewhere. I saw a question earlier, I believe from John, that was asking, can I connect this to multiple repositories? Yes, you can. If your design system lives elsewhere, that's totally fine. And then you have your directions, your rules for the LLM, how you want it to behave on every prompt. And then you also have component indexing, which is something from Builder where it'll scan your code base to identify and understand your components, their props, names, and patterns. And then that'll be in simple terms. It's so Builder learns what your app is made of. So that way, when you're building, it builds with your system, not just on top of it. And then what you get with this is a preview URL. So we talked about being excited, showing it to team members. Now you can easily just send it to them. You can get the local code you can pull down and run your own text editor, or you can spin up a new repo. So instead of starting from scratch, Fusion will understand your system and build it right out of the gate. So if people in the chat love to hear kind of some ideas of, if you have ideas of what you could use a starter template for, maybe we've tried to build with a vibe coding tool before. So here's some of the ones that, I was thinking of, or I've talked to customers and seen. So for product managers, it's a quick way to test new ideas or spin up prototypes without waiting on a full dev cycle. For designers or design teams, it's great for component testing, like exploring 3 different button styles or layout variations. For marketing, you could generate a landing page for a campaign or event in minutes. And for engineering teams, they're perfect for hackathons, internal experiments. But this is really just the tip of the iceberg. So curious to see if anyone has any creative ideas. Drop them in the chat. We'd love to hear about them. Cool. So now let's get into the demo. We got Gordon Ramsay here. Hopefully I can be as confident as he is. So let's get into it. Okay, so for those who aren't familiar, this is the projects view within Builder Fusion. So I have all the different apps I've connected. I can have branching with any of these different projects. And here I can prompt in like any vibe code tool about what I want to create. So with this, I have my starter templates here. So I created one for Builder for our site design. And let's go. I'm going to do a couple prompts here or different ones so we can see what it looks like. And then I'm going to hop over to the chat and see if I can answer some of your questions as we go along here. So for this, we're going to do create a landing page for a tech conference in San Francisco that Builder is hosting. Make the background animated with particle effect, and there will be free food, of course. All right, so we'll do that one. And then we'll do another one. So create, and we're going to change this one to we'll do this one, landing page for a tech conference in San Francisco, hosted by Builder.io, with a hero image from Unsplash, which gives like free, royalty-free images. So with this one, this is using the Material UI design system. So we're going to see what that looks like. And yes, so we got a question here. This one's from the chat, and I'll get over to the Q&A. When creating a prototype, does the generated code follows the design guidelines and layout guidelines, keeping breakpoints into consideration? Yes, it does. And this will also be a great point where we can talk about how rules come into play as well, and making sure that on every prompt, these are enforced. So we'll get back to that. And then this is a fun one. So we got the Windows 98 design here. So we're going to create a landing page for a tech conference in San Francisco, hosted by Microsoft, of course, in 1998. Cool. So these are running, so they take a little bit, which is why I'm kind of front loading this. Another fun idea here that you can use this for. So I've just been prompting, right? But now let's take a dashboard example. So this is using Cloudscape. So this is Amazon's design system. And here I have this network admin dashboard. I could definitely just screenshot this, but I do like to show our Figma to Builder plugin, which will copy all of the components. And it's going to basically generate a raw description so we can provide that to Fusion. Now, this is a completely different design system than what Builder has, but just to show you how I can just grab this and bring it over and then say, hey, let's add this. So we'll go here. And then we're going to say create a dashboard with the Builder branding, header, and style. Cool. Okay, let me get into the QA. If I want to convert PDF blueprints that I have images embedded or images to a code for 3D models, how would I go about this? Builder IO. The blueprints could have multiple pages that have multiple views or layers. So this is a great question. I've never done, 3D models, blueprints, but with Fusion, you can bring in, so let's go to this page. You can add any files. I've added a Figma as I've shown. If you want to add any copy over designs from web using our Builder Chrome extension. So you can add those files in here. Now, I will say that if you're adding multiple files or trying to create multiple different website pages, they're more complex. It's going to take a while. So I would say test it out, and then you can always update it as you go along. How do I connect the Figma design system? Cool. So I'm going to talk about how I connected my design system here. So we talk about, I've been using these starter templates. So what does that actually mean? I'm throwing this stuff all together. It looks really nice. So here's that material starter. I copied it and created a new one so I can show you how I created it live on this call. So I had mentioned example code is really important. So that way Builder knows what your code looks like. So I put all of my example code in a specific folder here. So I have a dashboard example, and I have various other pages of examples. It says, okay, this is how I'm writing my function, my components. So it has an idea for that. I also have Builder rules. So that applies earlier to what we had talked about, where, hey, I can give it specific guidelines for different designs, accessibility, making sure it's really enforcing everything that I want it to. And so these will be carried over. Also, if you have an agent's MD file, that's fine too. And then what this will look like to build this out is I will first go in here and connect to a repo. So material UI, here's the one. So project name, I can select a framework. This is a React one. And then all the startup scripts that we had mentioned before. So this is basic. If you have any environment variables, you can add these as well. And note that you can change this later on too. So next. And do I want to use a custom design system? Yes, I would. So with this, here's an important part that you can have this within this application. Someone earlier I saw in the chat had mentioned a mono repo. It's in your mono repo. That's totally fine. It's a separate repository. You can add that in. And I see a question here about, does this work for multi-brand designs? Yes, I have multiple different organizations. I can connect multiple repos to this for design systems. You can create multiple starter templates. So it totally works for multi-brand systems. That's where rules will come in to be very specific about how you want to guide the AI to do it. I have my design system in this repository. So I copied this. So I'm saying where you can find these components and just being detailed on that. It's pretty basic, my application. I'll go ahead and create that project. So that's going to go run. And why don't we go and check and see on some of how these are looking. So here's my Builder.io tech conference. And we have that animation in the background. There's free food and drink, which is very important. And yeah, it's what you'd expect with Builder's design. This is still setting up. We'll give that a moment. And this sort of thing that you see here, so my setup command that we had seen as I was setting up my app, it wasn't right. So I'm just going to have it try and fix it. And errors will come up, and Builder's good about fixing them. As a lot of these design systems I did find from different GitHub repos. Cool. We'll wait for that to go. And I'm going to go into the Q&A. Yes. So is there a good resource for creating design templates to choose from? So for me to find these different design systems, I looked at popular design system GitHub repos. So Material UI will have them, Untitled UI. I really had to dig, and I found the Windows 98. So I would use that. And then you can, as I showed you, you can fork that repo, and then you can configure it with Builder. And then depending on, you can then have Fusion update that. You can prompt it to change it up to your specific needs. Get here. So this is still going. One other prompt that I want to do on the design team one, which will be fun for our team too, is basically I'm going to say, hey, create 3 progressively complex React components to enhance Builder Fusion user experience. 1 is mild, 2 is moderate, 3 is wild. So we're going to go ahead and see what we get here. Okay, let's see how these are looking. Still setting things up. So you can see, as you know, if you're building a full website, it's going to take a little longer. Okay, so this is our dashboard example. So let's go ahead and view the dashboard. Great. So we see we got that Builder logo, and it's converted from this dashboard, which is very Amazon-esque, to now this one that's more Builder-esque. And you can see I can go into here. And a cool thing too is I know a lot of people are designed on this call, is I can now go in here and, if I need to get that selected element or change things up with the style, I can go in and do that here. So just makes it that much easier to fine tune your designs. Okay, let's see how these are going. And I'm going to go into the chat. Yeah, you can certainly include reusable modules, components developed in our project in a starter template. Certainly can do that. And so the way that if you create something within your Fusion project, so let me go to this dashboard, is that I can create a new repo from that. Now I can update it. And if it's an existing app in my projects, I can update it and do a pull request. So I saw one with Storybook on here as well. I wanted to get to. So you can set up your Storybook and have that as a completely separate repo within Builder. Okay, I need to just fix up the terminal there. Very much a live demo here, as you can tell. Okay, BuilderCon, here we go. So this is our Material UI version. It's not a bad name, actually. Great. So you can see how this differs from our builder design system. And now we have the material UI design system. This looks great. And we'll continue here. The Windows 98 one is struggling a little bit. I can show you what the example looks like though, because I did create it. Another one. But this is still going. And let's go back to these questions here. So I had answered that one. So all my projects are in Figma. Once I build new UIs in Builder, can I bring them to Figma since my Figma is where all my projects are documented and available for the team? So this is a great question. So we work with Figma on our Figma to Builder plugin. We're using their APIs, their best practices. Now, when you bring things, if you want to bring something back from, a component back into Figma, it would be unstructured. It's a limitation of their API. So we say that, have Figma as your source of truth, and then you can bring it over into Builder. But if you modify things a bunch in Builder and then brought it back to Figma, it's going to be unstructured, so you can bring it over, but there is that limitation. Yes, you can link the designs. If you already have your project, you can link it after. So let's go into that. Once this sets up, we'll apply those changes. So I just had to update the dev server. That's why it errored here. And then now we'll get that up and running. But let's go. So let me just pull open Fusion again. Okay. So here I have the projects tab again. So we're talking about how do I update configurations after the fact. I have my project settings here. So I have all my environment variables and then index design systems. I can specify these here as well. And we get any advanced settings. Cool. The only way for using a DS created on Builder is it being connected to a repo. Not sure I fully understand, but so these are all connected back to repo. You could just prompt here and it'd be using a starter, like we have basic starter templates here, as you can see with the React Vi. You'll have all of these on your Builder Fusion accounts out of the box. So you could just create with that and then create your own repo if you wanted to. Okay, so let's take a look at how some of these are looking. So this was the fun one that was saying, how can we improve the user experience? I'm sure a lot of you also have some thoughts on this as well. So always curious on that. But let's see the different. Cool. So enhance React components, what it does. So it's being very detailed on different toast navigation or notifications, command palette. So it's a cool way to see, okay, let me get some new ideas to see how we can maybe improve things. Maybe already have that user feedback. You can plug it into Fusion and get ideas of how to improve things. And obviously using your design. So it makes it that much more real to experience it. Okay. We're changing this. We saw the flash of what the app looks like originally. I'm gonna try and get that going. Cool. Let me go through some more of these questions here. Okay, so I've just been waiting for this to run. That way I can show you how to create the starter template because I can see there's some confusion around the process. So you have to spin up the app, get it going, and then we can create that starter template. So once that does, then I can show you how to create it. But the process, we go back to Builder, and so here are all my starter templates. So I have that Builder site design we've been doing. And with it, I then have an indexed design system. So I have that Builder site design. So what do I mean by an indexed design system? This is a one-time command I'm running in my application that's scanning my code base and it's identifying and understanding all of my components. So their props, their names, patterns, and in simple terms, it's how Builder is going to quickly identify what your app is made of. So the example code is tremendously helpful, and this is almost just a guide to it in understanding your application. So what that looks like is that I have different design systems here, and then I have all the specific components that Builder has gone and investigated and make sure it really understands the dependencies of it, the components. So it's almost like a little storybook in here. And then I'm referencing that in my starter template to make sure, hey, we're using this design system with this application to then create whatever that prompt says. What if you make changes to the design system in the middle of the project? That's a good question. So this is going to keep so for an index design system, it's a one-time command. It's going to keep it updated. It can work with your CI/CD. Now, if you kind of like a whole breaking change, I suppose, or yeah, I don't know exactly, depending on what it would be, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to get back to you on that one. Okay. So we're still setting this one up. I had the wrong dev command there. And sometimes, it might not show up. So show me the landing page for the tech conference. I didn't apply the changes here. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. Well, other questions? So Nick's answering that one. Yes, you can. Do you have to fine tune designs in Builder or can you do in Figma? You can do either, to be honest. So you can always bring back over a Figma design. So if I can see if I have a material one, but let's just pull over a smaller one. And we'll say this one here. And so at any point in time, I can grab this design and bring it in to my application. So I could say, add this at the bottom of the page. And then I could always update it later. And now in terms of fine tuning these, I have that design tab that I can go into and update any text. I also have it selected here so I could specify specific details on it, the fonts. So you could do either or. We still don't know how to bring in our Figma components from Figma and reuse these components in Fusion. So what I've been doing here in Figma is I'm using the Builder Figma plugin. So once we're doing that, that's running using Figma's APIs to copy all of the components structure and generate a raw description, and that way Fusion can use it. So when I click this, it's just going to copy it, and then I can paste that into Fusion. And then it's referencing my existing code base and comparing it with the Figma structure, and then adding it into Fusion. Can we include reusable Figma components developed in our project and a starter template for creating the code base to use them instead of a React component? So you can always copy and add in a Figma design at the beginning of a starter template. If this is like for the actual starter template itself, I would create that within Fusion and then have the code and then have that as the starter template itself. So it could be a React app. It could be whatever type of app you want it to be. Cool. Okay. We're going to keep going with the questions here. Okay, so when a design is complete in Builder, how do I push it to go to GitHub so I can see it live on my platform? Great question. So here I have this BuilderCon, and I can just go ahead and click Create Repo. I'm going to specify the name of it. Let's see, I need to have that updated. We'll do it for this one, see if it's working a bit better. I might just refresh this really quick. But so I'll create that repo, and then I can have it in GitHub. And then depending on what is hosting your app, maybe it's Vercel, then you can go ahead and then have that in your app. Okay, I'll double check on that. Okay. If you're not using a code base, how can you use your Figma components without bringing one individually in using a builder plugin for each project? That's a great question. So with this, you could use a starter template and bring them over. In terms of bringing them all at once, it's going to take a while. There's a lot of mappings and understanding with your Figma components. So I would start small, see how they're interacting, because you are changing it from Figma into code when you're bringing it over into Fusion. And I would just have it see, testing it with the prompts and better understanding, okay, how can I get higher fidelity output for this? And I can get back to you a little bit more on that one on specifics. So really depend on what your designs look like, but I would just say start testing it out, see how they look, and then iterate from there. Yes, Connor, this is a good one. Is there a simplified tutorial in the platform for walking through a simplified process, starting with the Figma plugin, connecting a repo, etc., like a Fusion for Dummies book? So this is great. So we do have videos. I put together some on this. So first start with signing up for Fusion. So you'll sign up and then you're going to see that project site that we had on there. So that's going to have the prompt for you, and then you can add in something there. We can also follow up with some additional details there on that, but then you can connect it to a repo. You create an account with like a GitHub, and then we have some other videos we can send over on how to do that. But great question. Does it get indexed when you paste into the chat? So if I'm creating it, so when you're messing around with any of these projects, it's not tied. So I haven't created a repo here. It's not tied back to my code base initially. If I'm using a existing project, so if I go to one of these here, I can do a new branch, but until I actually push it to GitHub, it's not in my actual production code. So you can kind of mess around, do what you want. And then once you do that, then it would be, if you have that reference in your code already, then it would be indexed. see. So if I wanted to create a starter template from just a Figma components, how would I do that? Let's go in here. Let me find my, I can show you because I know there's been a lot of Figma questions, which is great. So let me see. I have a good way on how to do that. So I'm just going to find a Figma file over here on the side. That's one. Okay, so we'll take our Builder Academy here. So these won't match 100% to my Builder ones, but I can always take one of these. And if I want to create a starter template, we're just going to go here. So we already did this one. So let's create a starter template. And I'm just going to say create a starter template with this design. So I really mentioned how with starter templates, it's really what you make of it. So I have this, and I can also say specify this code. Let's think of it. Let's see if we can add it to my builder rules. Add it to my design system files. So we'll spin it up. So a lot of times when I'm doing these things, I'm testing out, okay, how test out one prompt. If I'm trying to make these starter templates like I did for this demo, okay, test it out, see if it works. Okay, going through the documentation and understanding I should have example designs for it, and then asking Fusion what's the best way for me to architect this, because Fusion's kind of like the coach in this a lot of times. So I'm asking, what are good rules so this doesn't happen again? And I think a lot of it, you'll be surprised what you find when you're using it to coach you and guide you through how to make these and how to make it work for you. Okay. So we'll let that one run. Okay. Yes, that's running. Setting things up. And I apologize. I know I'm bouncing around a lot, but just trying to answer the questions. Okay. Okay, where do they get indexed? Is there a section in Builder? DSs, I'm not sure what DSs means, but like when I say I have a new project in Builder in reference, one of those previously indexed, design systems. So yes, you can. Great question. So let's go back, my component showcase. So any of these. So I have my Microsoft Tech Summit here that I tried out before, and I have my project settings, and I have my index design systems. I can always select a design system here if I want to, and then save those settings going forward. And then if I have different branches, it would go off that. So yes, you can update that. And this is a one-time code. We have our documentation. If our team wants to post it in the chat, that would be great. Can I have multiple pages in one project, or can each project only handle one page at a time? You can have multiple pages. So you can have pretty complex design, like pretty complex applications in here. The one thing is that if you're doing it all at once, it's just going to take more time. So that's the only caveat there. But yeah, go see what you can create. You know, it's fun just to test it out, kind of see where the limits are at. Okay. So here, for example, on that note of more complex applications, this has a lot of pages. It's got a lot of things going on within this application. So you will see that. And we're going to see, yeah, might get a little error once in a while. That's fine. Okay, we're going through them. Let's see if I can show you what this looks like to create this starter app, because that's what I was waiting on for a little while. Okay, so down here, so we'll think if we create that material starter template. And then now I can go ahead and add in a new starter template. So do demo starter. And we can just connect any of them, I guess. But so we'll do this one. Save. And then with that, just to make sure we got it set up right here. It was the material UI starter, I believe. Is then I can come in and add in that index design system for material UI. Okay, let's see questions. Okay, so this is a good one. So from Adib, how do you leverage Figma to ensure builder sees and understands what type of visual feedback an individual interaction should have, animations, prototyping, etc. So when I'm in Builder, I have access to the design mode. So I can go in here and see what were the specific styles of this, and I can go in, and I believe there might have been a question that yes, you can integrate your design token so it can have your specific colors, brand styles that you'd expect. So you can check on it here. You also have then the code side of it as well. So I can go in and inspect the code for a particular component. And then when it's a branch, you can do a pull request, and then another person or team is going to review that and see exactly how it's created. Does it match up to what we'd expect? So you have those ways to do it. There might be others that I know Nick can get back to on as well. We also do have responsive mode to see what this looks like at different screen sizes as well. And if I need to change something where, I don't know why the background's not coming up, but if I said something like, make sure this element works with mobile view. So now I have the selected element, so it knows what to look for, and then it can update it with a prompt. Okay. In my experience, it's better to use the builder design system or storybook. Now, really depends on perspective, what matters most at the company you work at. So when I find with talking with customers that storybook is a way to keep everything you're doing in Figma documented so that developers can reference it. Builder makes it really easy to do so. Like I showed you, where you can copy over a Figma design, you can then update it in your storybook with that and the relevant documentation. So it makes it really easy to update that. Now, in terms of the application itself and producing really good design, that's where you want to have your design system. So it can really reference the code examples, where you can find those. So I would say if it's for your app, it's going to be the design system itself. All right, answered that one. Okay. Yes, you can use a Fusion Create a Page as a starter template. That's totally fine. So if you create a page, So let's say your process is you sign up for Fusion, then you sign up for GitHub, you prompt Fusion, then it's going to create a repo. So we could create that repo. Then once we create that repo, now you could go into, let me find one of these. Oh, I can show you some cool things there too. Now I can just connect that repo that you would have there. So, and now you connect that repo. And then if you want to create that as a starter template, you could do that. So totally works. And, a lot of these questions that you ask, because obviously as you go through exploring any new tool, questions are going to come up. Think of Builder to ask those questions. Hey, what's the best way to do this? See how it interacts. It's treating it as a developer on your team that's able to reference your design systems, that's able to work for you and really understand what you want to do and help you understand, okay, how should I structure this? How should I change things up? So really leveraging the AI for that is great. I mean, I do it all the time. Like we don't have all the use cases that you have, so we're always learning too and asking, okay, what's the best way to do this, and then iterating through. Cool. Let's see, going through the questions. Is it possible to add design workflow? And also, can we import multiple Figma files to create React code? Yeah, you could certainly import multiple Figma designs at one time if you wanted to. That's where it just take a little longer. So, it's building out a full app or pages for you that normally takes like 2 weeks in normal time. So get a cup of coffee and then let it run for a bit. It can do it, or you can iterate through and kind of see, all right, what does this one look like? Get a little more confident, then do the bigger chunk of them. But you can certainly add them in. I mean, you can add in a file like, hey, let's see how you would implement this PRD. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do. I know we got about 12 minutes left, so I'm going to try and get through all of these. Well, and if things still don't make sense, feel free to post them in the chat. Answer that one. Cool. Do you have a user flow with multiple pages in one project? Example, in one project, I want to test a search user journey that starts at the home page, transitions to a search result, and ends at a shopping cart. I mean, to be honest, you can just paste that in here. You can totally have multiple pages here. So if I just changed it, make it look modern and exciting, we can just go ahead and create that. So there's no reason why not. It's just that when you give it a lot more context, you're giving it multiple different pages, it's going to fill in a lot of these gaps. So that's why I would say a lot of times start small, see how it works, and then you can get to those bigger, broader strokes. But to start, it's fun sometimes just to do these sort of things. That was from Brandon. Okay, so explain more about my seeding, the app I made with my starter template. Great. So I'm happy to explain those each. So in my GitHub, so I have this material UI starter, which is actually what I did here is I took, I have a builder clone somewhere. I'll find it in my repos, but I took basically a clone of our website, and then I was asking Fusion, hey, what would you do for this? And I took all our technical documentation, pasted it in there. I said, make a starter template based off this. Remove anything that you don't think you need to do this. And then it went ahead and did that for me. So I took the app that I was like, I like the design of it. Now I want to create a starter template. And I was asking Fusion on how to do that. So let me go in. Let's see if I can find it. So I think this was one of them that I was doing, and hopefully I can see the prompts that I had from before. So we'll go into that. Cool. Okay. Yes, answered that one. Okay. So here's me previously asking how I can improve prompts. Let's see if I can get more of my history. That was a different one. Sorry. But I'll go through some more questions here. Okay, this is a good one from Karen. How does this relate to having a design guide specified in our GitHub? How does it compare to the idea of storybook and reusable components? So great question. So if you have that design guide, you could have that design guide in your design instructions. If it's saying, okay, where does this point to? We're pointing to this repo, that repo. You could connect multiple repos to that one project. And then the idea of storybook, depending on how your company is using it. So if it's just updating different teams on how to build things out, or is there actual like reference code for each of those components? So you want to be tying in that actual reference code of how you're designing your components within when you're setting up that application. Well, so we're getting closer time here. And if you're interested, we're going to have the recording too. Happy to follow up with any questions you have with a more detailed explanation. It's fun to help people out as they're building cool new things. So let us know. I'm also happy to make any videos too that explains setting up a Fusion project. How do you connect to your GitHub? How do you do your design system? All sorts of things. So please feel free to reach out and let us know. We're always happy to help. It's exciting when you're building new things. All right, now I'm looking through the chat. I think we talked about what it got indexed. Sometimes if it gets a 404 error, if that's in Fusion, then ask it to fix it. You can post in Claude too, but I typically just ask to click to fix it. Let's see. Let's go through. Okay, last few ones. Olivia was saying that they've imported Figma files, but they never look quite right. This only applies to browser or so I'd say if you're not getting those Figma designs, 100%, let us know. It's comparing it with your existing design system. So it matters on how you're structuring your components within your existing application. If there's discrepancies there, then it can get confused between the two. Or if you're not component indexing. So it depends on the setup in that regard. Let's see. Does generated code ensure that there are no style overrides and we are using all the correct styling hooks to these components? I can't say because it's not my application. Like if it's for your application, it depends on how your components are already structured. Is that in line with your Figma designs? Are there other pieces of your application? It's kind of like if your application is kind of sprawling and there's a lot of inconsistencies and there could be errors. We really strive to have it be 100%, but it'll also depend on your existing application. I've seen customers that have it up, they're getting 98% consistency with their Figma to code designs. Yeah, so someone's using Lovable design system on Figma. So yeah, it's tough because you're using Lovable's existing boilerplate, and then you're designing stuff, then adding stuff from Figma. So you kind of get a lot of different discrepancies. So if you have an existing app, that's great. Or kind of creating, trying to create that starter template, creating an app within Fusion that can then work with your design system. And I'll try to put together a video on that. That'd be fun because there's been a lot of questions around that. We're getting some new ones. Okay. Well, yeah, as Joe mentioned, if you're interested in reaching out, we have that link in there, as well as you can sign up too. So please let us know. We'll definitely take the feedback on more designer, the Figma focused ones. I'm happy to also create some videos on that as well. I can see that, yeah, a lot of people have questions on that. So well, so that about sums it up. Just want to thank everyone for coming. Like I said, we'll send out that recording. Thanks for all the great questions, and sign up, reach out. Yeah, we're excited to see what you build.